He gave Addis a powerful charm and warned her once again of the dangers. But Addis didn't care. She was willing to do anything to make Chindu love her, even if it meant risking her own safety. Once upon a time, in a small village called Akpolu, there was a girl named Addis. Addis was a beautiful young woman, but she was not happy because she wanted to marry a wealthy man from a big family. Every day, Addis would watch as the boys and girls in her village played games and shared stories. But her heart longed for something more. She wanted to live in a luxurious mansion and enjoy herself. And most of all, she wanted to find a rich young man who would sweep her off her feet and take her away to a land of magic and adventure. One day, Addis met a man named Chindu. Chindu was from a wealthy family and Addis fell in love with him at first sight. But Chindu didn't seem interested in her, so she did what was shocking. Chindu was not just any man, he was from a family with lots and lots of money. His daddy owned a big company that made shiny cars that zoomed down the roads. Chindu wore fancy clothes and lived in a huge house with a garden full of colorful flowers. Everyone in the village knew about Chindu's family and how rich they were. They would whisper about it whenever he walked by, pointing at his fancy clothes and shiny shoes. But despite all his riches, Chindu was a kind-hearted man who always helped others in need. He worked hard at his daddy's company, making important decisions and helping it grow bigger and bigger. Addis was amazed by Chindu's wealth and dreamed of living in a big house with him, surrounded by all the things money could buy. She thought that if she could make Chindu love her, she would finally have everything she ever wanted. One sunny day, Addis heard some exciting news in the village. She learned that there was a job opening at Chindu's father's company. It was a job for cleaning, making sure the floors sparkled and the windows gleamed. Addis' eyes widened with excitement. She thought if she got this job, she could be close to Chindu every day. She imagined herself working in the big, shiny building where Chindu made important decisions. With hope in her heart, Addis went to apply for the job. She dressed in her best clothes and walked with a spring in her step, dreaming of the day she would walk alongside Chindu in his father's company. As Addis arrived at the big building where Chindu's father's company was, her heart raced with excitement. She climbed the grand staircase, each step feeling like a step closer to her dreams coming true. But as she reached the top of the staircase, she suddenly froze. There, standing just a few steps away, was Chindu himself. His eyes were focused on something in the distance, and he didn't notice Addis at all. Addis' heart sank. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times in her head, but now that it was here, she didn't know what to do. Should she say hello? Should she introduce herself? But before she could make up her mind, Chindu turned and walked away, disappearing down a hallway lined with shiny doors. Addis watched him go, feeling a pang of disappointment in her heart. She realized then that Chindu was just like any other person in the company, busy with his own life and thoughts. And as much as she wished for him to notice her, she knew that it would take more than just a passing glance to win his love. After that moment with Chindu, Addis took a deep breath and continued her journey. She went inside the building and found the office where they were accepting applications for the cleaning job. Addis filled out the form with her name, her address, and all the other details they asked for. She handed it to the person behind the desk, who smiled and told her they would be in touch. Days passed, and Addis waited anxiously to hear back from the company. She couldn't stop thinking about Chindu and how she had seen him that day on the staircase. She hoped that if she got the job, she would have another chance to see him and maybe even talk to him. Finally, one morning, Addis received a letter in the mail. She opened it eagerly and read the words inside, "Congratulations. You have been chosen for the cleaning job at our company." Addis' heart soared with happiness. She couldn't believe it. She had gotten the job she had dreamed of, and now she would be working in the same building as Chindu. With a skip in her step, Addis made her way to the company, ready to start her new job and maybe, just maybe, catch another glimpse of Chindu along the way. Addis started her new job at the company. Every day, she worked hard to make sure the floors sparkled and the windows gleamed, just like she was told. But no matter how much she hoped, Chindu didn't seem to notice her. She tried everything to get his attention. She smiled at him whenever they passed each other in the hallway, and she even made small talk when they were in the same room. But Chindu always seemed busy with his work, and he never paid her any attention. At first, Addis thought that maybe Chindu was just shy. But as days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months, she began to feel sad. No matter how hard she tried, Chindu didn't seem to see her at all. One day, as Addis was cleaning a window, she saw Chindu walking outside. She waved to him and called out his name, hoping he would stop and talk to her. But Chindu just kept walking, his eyes fixed on something in the distance. Tears filled Addis' eyes as she watched him go. She realized then that no matter how much she wished for Chindu to notice her, it might never happen. And that thought made her heart ache with sadness. As Addis' days passed by, her heart felt heavier and heavier. She became desperate to make Chindu notice her, no matter what. She spent her nights tossing and turning, thinking of ways to win his heart. Addis tried everything she could think of. She wore her prettiest dresses, put flowers in her hair, and even practiced her sweetest smile in the mirror. But no matter how hard she tried, Chindu still didn't seem to see her. Then Addis came up with a decision to go and see a native doctor to help her. Addis went to see Babatunde, the wise native doctor. She begged him to help her, telling him how much she loved Chindu and how she would do anything to make him notice her. Babatunde looked at Addis with sad eyes. He warned her that using witchcraft to win someone's love could have dangerous consequences. But Addis was too desperate to listen. She begged Babatunde to give her a charm, one that would make Chindu fall for her no matter what. Reluctantly, Babatunde agreed. He gave Addis a powerful charm and warned her once again of the dangers. But Addis didn't care. She was willing to do anything to make Chindu love her, even if it meant risking her own safety. With the charm in hand, Addis set out to make Chindu notice her once and for all. But little did she know, her desperate actions would soon lead to consequences she could never have imagined. The next day, Addis went back to work at the company, her heart pounding with excitement and nervousness. She held the charm tightly in her hand, remembering the words Babatunde, the native doctor, had told her. She waited for the perfect moment, when Chindu was passing by, and then she whispered the words of the charm, just like Babatunde had instructed her. She felt a tingling sensation as she did so, and she hoped with all her heart that it would finally make Chindu notice her. But as Chindu walked past, he didn't even glance in Addis' direction. He kept walking, his eyes focused on something far away, as if she wasn't even there. Addis' heart sank as she realized that the charm hadn't worked. She felt a wave of disappointment wash over her, but she refused to give up. She was determined to make Chindu notice her, no matter what it took. The next day, Addis woke up feeling a little sad that the charm hadn't worked the day before. But she didn't lose hope. She believed that maybe, just maybe, it would work if she tried again. So, with determination in her heart, Addis went back to work at the company. This time, she whispered the words of the charm even more carefully, making sure to focus all her energy on making Chindu notice her. And then, something amazing happened. As Chindu walked past, his eyes suddenly met Addis. He stopped in his tracks, as if he had been struck by lightning. Addis' heart skipped a beat as she saw the surprise and curiosity in his eyes. For a moment, they stood there, staring at each other in silence. And then, slowly but surely, a smile spread across Chindu's face. It was a smile that warmed Addis' heart and made her feel like she was floating on air. She had done it. The charm had finally worked, and Chindu had finally noticed her. Addis couldn't believe her luck. She felt like the luckiest girl in the world, and she knew that from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same again. But little did she know, the charm she had used would soon turn against her, bringing with it a darkness she could never have imagined. After Chindu finally noticed Addis, everything changed. They started talking more at work, sharing jokes and laughter. And then, one day, Chindu asked Addis if she wanted to go out for dinner after work. Addis' heart skipped a beat with excitement as she eagerly accepted his invitation. They went to a local restaurant in the village, where they talked and laughed over plates of delicious food. Addis felt like she was in a dream, sitting across from Chindu and enjoying his company. As the days went by, Chindu and Addis started going out together more often. Sometimes they would go for walks, holding hands and watching the sunset. Other times, they would go to explore new places in the village. And then, one magical evening, as they were walking home from dinner, Chindu stopped and looked into Addis' eyes. His face was serious, but there was a twinkle of excitement in his eyes as he asked her if she would go out with him on a real date. Addis' heart soared with happiness as she nodded her head eagerly. She couldn't believe that Chindu wanted to go on a date with her, and she felt like the luckiest girl in the world. From that moment on, Chindu and Addis' relationship blossomed into something beautiful. They went on many more dates, sharing laughter, love, and countless memories together. And as they walked hand in hand through the village, Addis realizing that she used charm on him, she wished their love could last a lifetime. As time passed, Chindu and Addis' love grew stronger and stronger. They went on more adventures together, exploring the world around them and making new memories every day. One sunny day, Chindu got down on one knee and asked Addis to marry him. Addis' eyes filled with tears of joy as she said yes, knowing that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with Chindu. Their wedding day was a magical affair, filled with laughter, love, and happiness. Friends and family gathered to celebrate as Chindu and Addis exchanged vows and promised to love each other forever. After the wedding, Chindu and Addis moved into a luxury house in the village just as Addis wished. They filled it with love and laughter, and soon enough, they welcomed two beautiful children into their lives. Chindu was overjoyed to be a father, and he loved his children more than anything in the world. He would spend hours playing with them, teaching them new things, and showering them with love and affection. But little did Chindu know, Addis had used a charm to make him fall in love with her all those years ago. She had never told him about it, afraid of what he might think. As the years went by, Chindu and Addis' love only grew stronger. They were a happy family, filled with love and laughter, and nothing could ever tear them apart. As the years passed and Chindu and Addis' family grew, Addis couldn't shake the feeling of gratitude towards Babatunde, the native doctor, who had given her the charm that made Chindu fall in love with her. One sunny afternoon, Addis decided to visit Babatunde to express her thanks. She walked through the village, her heart filled with warmth and appreciation. When she arrived at Babatunde's hut, she found him sitting outside, surrounded by herbs and potions. She greeted him warmly and thanked him for his help all those years ago. Babatunde smiled kindly and listened as Addis told him about her life with Chindu and their beautiful children. He nodded, his wise eyes twinkling with understanding. Addis thanked Babatunde once again for his help and for giving her the chance to find true love. And as she walked home, she knew that she would always be grateful for the role he had played in her life. One day, as Chindu was walking back from work, he met a pastor on the road. The pastor looked at Chindu with a serious expression and said, "Chindu, I have something important to tell you about your wife, Addis." Chindu was surprised and curious. He stopped to listen as the pastor continued, I have heard rumors that your wife used witchcraft to make you fall in love with her. Chinedu's heart skipped a beat as he heard the pastor's words. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Addis, his beloved wife, using witchcraft. It sounded impossible. But the pastor insisted that it was true. He told Chinedu stories of other people who had been tricked by spells and charms, warning him to be careful. Chinedu listened to the pastor's words, but deep down, he couldn't believe that Addis would do such a thing. He knew her to be a kind and loving wife, and he couldn't imagine her using witchcraft to make him love her. So, with a heavy heart, Chinedu thanked the pastor for his warning and continued on his way. But as he walked, a seed of doubt began to grow in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that there might be some truth to the pastor's words, but he pushed the thought away, refusing to believe that his wife could ever do something like that. The next day, as Chinedu walked back from work again, he encountered a madman sitting by the roadside. The madman's eyes gleamed strangely as he looked at Chinedu, and then he spoke in a voice that sounded both eerie and urgent. "Chinedu," the madman said, "I have something important to tell you about your wife, Addis." Chinedu paused, feeling a sense of déjà vu. He listened as the madman told him about rumors that Addis had used witchcraft to make him fall in love with her. Chinedu's heart pounded with fear and confusion. Could it be true? Could Addis really have used witchcraft on him? But just like before, Chinedu refused to believe it. He shook his head and told the madman that he trusted his wife completely, and he couldn't imagine her doing anything like that. With a dismissive wave of his hand, Chinedu continued on his way, trying to push the madman's words out of his mind. But deep down, the seed of doubt continued to grow, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was not quite right. Feeling troubled by the madman's words, Chinedu decided to go back and find the pastor he had met the first day. He searched through the village until he finally found the pastor praying in his church. Chinedu poured out his heart to the pastor, telling him about the strange encounters he had with the madman and the doubts that were now gnawing at him. The pastor listened with compassion and understanding, his gentle voice soothing Chinedu's troubled mind. After hearing Chinedu's story, the pastor prayed for him, asking for guidance and clarity. And then, something miraculous happened. As the pastor prayed, a feeling of peace washed over Chinedu, and he felt as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. At that moment, Chinedu's eyes were opened, and he saw things clearly for the first time. He realized that Addis had indeed used witchcraft to make him fall in love with her, and he felt a deep sense of betrayal and sadness. But he also felt a sense of relief, knowing that he had finally seen the truth. With the pastor's help, Chinedu knew that he would find a way to confront Addis and make things right. And as he left the church that day, he knew that he was no longer alone in his journey. As Chinedu left the church that day, he felt a mix of emotions swirling inside him. He was relieved to have finally seen the truth about Addis' actions, but he also felt sad knowing that their relationship was built on a lie. Meanwhile, Addis went about her day as usual, unaware that her secret was about to catch up with her. She went about her chores, took care of their children, and waited for Chinedu to come home from work. But little did she know, Chinedu was on his way home, determined to confront her about what he had learned. And as the sun began to set and the shadows grew long, Addis' heart began to flutter with unease, sensing that something was about to change. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Chinedu arrived home, his heart heavy with the truth he now carried. He found Addis waiting for him, her smile bright as ever, unaware of the storm brewing within him. With a deep breath, Chinedu sat Addis down and told her everything he had learned from the pastor. Addis' eyes widened in shock as the truth dawned on her, and she tried to deny it at first, but Chinedu's words were like arrows piercing through her defenses. Heartbroken and betrayed, Chinedu told Addis that their marriage was over. He couldn't bear to stay with someone who had deceived him with witchcraft. Addis pleaded and begged for forgiveness, but Chindu's heart had turned cold, and he knew he could never trust her again. With a heavy heart, Chindu told Addis to leave their home and never come back. Addis' world shattered around her as she realized the consequences of her actions. With tears streaming down her face, she gathered her belongings and left, feeling lost and alone once again. As Addis wandered the streets, she couldn't help but wonder how everything had gone so wrong. She had thought that using witchcraft would bring her happiness, but instead, it had brought her nothing but pain and sorrow. And as the night fell and the stars twinkled above, Addis found herself alone once again, facing the consequences of her actions with no one to turn to for help. Then she remembered the warning Babatunde gave her. He warned her that using witchcraft to win someone's love could have dangerous consequences. The moral of the story is that using deception and manipulation to get what you want will only lead to pain and suffering in the end. Addis' actions may have seemed like a quick solution to her problems, but they ultimately destroyed her happiness and her marriage. The story also teaches us the importance of honesty and trust in relationships. Chindu's trust was broken when he discovered Addis' deceit, and it's a reminder that honesty is the foundation of any healthy relationship. So, the advice from this story is to always be honest and true to yourself and others. Instead of resorting to deceitful means, trust in the power of honesty and communication to build strong and meaningful relationships. And remember, true love can never be forced or manipulated. It can only be earned through sincerity and genuine connection.